Hey, Math 1. Today we are continuing Chapter 7. We are continuing with some geometry. Chapter 7 is all about geometry, I think, or at least it begins our section on geometry. Today we're going to be going over a review, hopefully for some of you, maybe most of you, about different types of angles and their measures and how they're related to each other. So you can see today that we are doing identify special pairs of angles and how their measurements are related, and find missing angles. So here we go. Shouldn't take too long because it's kind of a review. Did you know an angle is made up of two rays that have the same endpoint? We're going to draw them over here. So like a ray has an endpoint and then it goes forever. And then it has an endpoint, it goes forever. That is two rays. They both have the same endpoint. Maybe we'll call the endpoint point B. And we'll put a point on this ray called A. So that starts at B and goes through A. And this starts at B and goes through C. And I got myself an angle there. The corner of the angle. So that would be this point right here, point B, is called the vertex. So let's label that the vertex. And there are three ways you can name an angle. One is you can just use the vertex. So I could call this angle, angle B. This little symbol here means angle. That is a good way to name an angle by calling it by the vertex. However, it doesn't always work. Like if you have more than one angle, if this was point B and there's more than one angle at it, I can't just call one of them angle B because I wouldn't know if that's this angle or this angle or this angle. So using the vertex is nice as long as there's only one angle. A great way to name an angle is using a number. A lot of times they'll just put a number inside the angle, and I could just call this thing angle 1. That always works if there's numbers inside the angle. It's a quick, easy way to do it. But the most common way is to use 3 letters. This particular angle would be angle ABC or angle CBA. And the important thing about using 3 letters is the vertex must be the middle letter. All right, so hopefully you remember how to name an angle. We should have learned that in Math 8, and I'm sure most of you did. All right, so now we have a lot of vocabulary. The first we have is complementary angles. That is any two angles whose measures add up to 90 degrees. So I'm going to draw a diagram over here. My first diagram is going to be a right angle. And I am going to, again, call this angle ABC. I'm going to call it ABD. All right, so I've got this angle, angle ABD, and I'm going to split it up into 2 angles, and I'll put a C there. And now you can see that angle ABC, that's this angle, and angle CBD, all right, that'd be this angle. Together, they made this right angle. There's a 90-degree angle symbol there. So they would be complementary because together they add up to 90 degrees. Now for 2 angles to be complementary, they don't have to be next to each other like that. I could just have some random 30-degree angle over here, angle P. Then I could have another angle over here that is like 60 degrees, angle N. And because one is 30 and one is 60, angle P and angle N would also be complementary because they add up to 90 degrees. any two angles that add up to 90 degrees are complementary. And the same way works for supplementary, except now it's any two angles whose measures add up to 180 degrees. They are called supplementary angles, or supplements of each other. And let's draw another diagram here. We're going to start with a straight line. Did you know that a line is an angle? A line is called a straight, G-H-T, a straight angle. And it's 180 degrees. So if you take a straight angle, and I guess we're calling this again angle ABD, and I split it up into two angles, then clearly angle ABC, which is this angle, and angle CBD, which is this angle, together they make a straight angle, so they must add up to 180 degrees, and therefore they are supplementary. And the same as the 90-degree angle, I could take an angle which I'm calling angle P and say it is 70 degrees. And I could take another angle which I'm calling angle N and say it's 110 degrees. And angle P and angle N would also be supplementary because they add up to 180 degrees, even though they are just two random angles. Right, adjacent angles. This is two angles that have the same vertex. They must have the same vertex. So let's draw an angle. We're going to call this angle ABC. And we'll split it up and we'll call this D. All right, so here's what it takes to be adjacent. The word adjacent means next to. These two angles are next to each other. They must share the same vertex, which these angles do. They both have the same vertex right there, right? Here's my two angles. Both angle ABD and angle DBC have the same vertex, and they share a common side. They share the side down the middle. And there's one more thing. They can't overlap. So if we have two angles that share a side, they don't overlap, they have the same vertex. Basically, they are two angles that are next to each other. Then they are called adjacent angles. All right? And these two angles would be adjacent angles. Next up, we have a linear pair. So a linear pair are adjacent angles. And so they share a common side. And their other sides form a straight line. So that looks like a drawing that we had before. It looks like this. Maybe I'll just call this 1 and 2. So I have these two angles, angle 1 and angle 2. They share a common side, right? And the other sides make the two blue ones make a straight line. These two angles are always supplementary because together they form a straight line. So they add up to 180 degrees. So I guess what I'm saying here is the word line, let's go back to blue. The word line is right there in linear pair. Two angles whose outsides make a line are called a linear pair. Angle 1 and angle 2 are a linear pair. And they will add up to 180 degrees. Then we get to the easiest one, in my opinion, vertical angles. So when two lines cross like this, right? When two lines cross, they make four angles. The angles that are opposite each other are called vertical angles. And vertical angles always have equal measures. So angle 1 and angle 3 are a pair of vertical angles. And angle 2 and angle 4 are a pair of vertical angles because they are opposite each other, right? Angle 1 and angle 3 opposite each other, and they will have equal measures. Vertical angles always have equal measures. All right, so I have a few examples. I'm going to do these relatively quickly. I'm not going to really finish them, but I want to show you how to do them so you can do the homework. So you need to take the relationships that you know exist and solve for the angles or solve for x. It says here that A and B are vertical angles. Well, I just learned that vertical angles are equal to each other. So I know that if A and B are vertical angles, then A and B are equal. So 2x minus 4 must equal x plus 1. That's pretty easy to solve. X would equal 5. I have found the value of x. All right, how about example 2? Angle A and B are supplementary angles. Well, I learned earlier that that means they add up to 180. So this angle and this angle must add up to 180. 5x plus 25 plus 3x plus 19, these two angles added together make 180. And I know you can all solve that. I don't know if I want to solve all of these. Probably not. If I subtract 44, I get 136. And that would be 17. X equals 17, but that's not my answer, right? Because what they really want me to do is find the measure of angle B. So I would have to take x equals 17 and put it back in for angle B and see what it is. All right. Example 3 says AED equals 85. So we need to know where angle AED is. A is there, E is there, D. So this is angle AED, and it's 85. What is the measure of angle AEI? So AEI would be this angle. Now, what do you know about those two angles? Well, what I'm hoping you recognize is they are adjacent to each other and they have the same vertex. So they share a side, but their other sides make a straight line. They are a linear pair. So that means that 85 plus this other angle, I guess AEI, equals 180. And if I subtract 85 from both sides, I get 95. This angle would be 95. Example 4. Well, here's my vertex, and it looks like all three of these angles added together make a straight line. So 20 plus 90 plus A equals 180. And I know you could all solve for A, right? Let's do example 5. I guess the only thing I want to point out in example 5 is we have a bunch of vertical angles. Like if you look at these two lines, angle D and this 30 are vertical angles, so they're equal. That's true. And how am I going to get the others then? Well, let's see. I now know that this is 30. How does that help me? Well, I guess I see that this angle and this angle and this angle together make a straight line. So 117 plus 30 plus F equals 180. That would be 147 plus F And so F would equal 33. All right, I think you get the idea. Actually, example 6 is very similar to example 5. I think you're good. I think you can do the homework. If you have any questions, of course, you can always ask me in AO or extensions or email me and I will help you out. All right, good luck.